Could something as common as daily release quietly harm your prostate and you'd never even know? Millions of men over 40 keep this habit in secret, believing it's harmless, or even healthy. But beneath the surface, your body might be reacting in ways few ever talk about. Hormones shift, muscles fatigue, and internal systems meant to protect you may begin to misfire. It's not about shame, it's about awareness. What if the real danger isn't what you're doing, but how often? In this video, we're uncovering the surprising science behind a daily habit that could change your health in ways you never expected. What the prostate actually does. The prostate isn't something most men think about until it starts causing problems. But this small gland, about the size of a walnut, plays a much bigger role in your health than you might expect. Positioned just below the bladder and wrapped around the urethra, the prostate has one primary job. It produces the fluid that nourishes and protects sperm. That fluid makes up a significant portion of semen, allowing sperm to survive the journey through the reproductive system. But its role goes far beyond reproduction. Because of where it sits, the prostate directly influences how easily you can urinate. When it swells or becomes inflamed, even slightly, it can put pressure on the urethra, the narrow tube that carries urine out of the body. That's why early prostate issues often show up as weak flow, frequent nighttime urination, or that annoying feeling of not fully emptying your bladder. But there's something else going on too. The prostate is filled with tiny muscle fibers and blood vessels that rely on regular movement and circulation to stay healthy. That means this gland isn't just passive, it's reactive. It responds to your habits, your hormones, your stress levels, and even your sexual activity. And yes, that includes solo activity. When the prostate isn't stimulated regularly, its internal fluid can become stagnant, leading to a sluggish local environment. Over time, this can contribute to low-level inflammation, reduced immune response, and a higher risk of developing chronic discomfort or enlargement. On the other hand, too much activity, especially without proper recovery, can overwork the surrounding muscles and nerves, eventually leading to fatigue and urinary control problems. So whether it's overuse or neglect, the prostate is sensitive to extremes. And here's where it gets even more important. As men age, natural testosterone begins to decline, while hormones like DHT, a more potent form of testosterone, can rise or fall unpredictably. DHT is strongly linked to prostate growth. So if your hormone levels are already shifting and your prostate is being stimulated too frequently or not enough, the gland can easily fall out of balance. That's why many men over 40 suddenly begin noticing issues they never had before, and never connect them to the actual cause. Understanding what the prostate does is the first step, because once you know how this small gland operates, you can start making smarter decisions about how to protect it, not just now, but in the decades ahead. The first biological shift, hormonal interference. Let's start with what most men don't realize. Every time you ejaculate, there's a hormonal shift happening behind the scenes, and it's more significant than it seems. When a man orgasms, there's a temporary drop in a hormone called DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. DHT is a more potent form of testosterone that plays a key role in developing male traits, deep voice, muscle growth, body hair. But it also has a darker side. It's directly linked to prostate growth. High levels of DHT over time can cause the prostate to enlarge, leading to discomfort, urination issues, and a higher risk of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. This is where things get interesting. Occasional ejaculation actually gives your prostate a break. It briefly lowers DHT levels, which can reduce constant hormonal pressure on the gland. That's why many health professionals encourage regular sexual activity, even solo, for men over 40. It's a kind of reset, a way to clear the system and give the prostate relief. But, and this is where the danger comes in, daily release can push that balance too far. Your endocrine system, which controls hormone production, is designed to respond to cycles, activity, rest, recovery. But when a man masturbates every single day, especially without allowing time for full hormonal stabilization, it can destabilize the entire feedback loop. This loop controls testosterone production, energy levels, libido, mood, and more. Constant dips and spikes in DHT and testosterone can confuse the system, especially in men approaching their 50s and beyond, when the body is already adjusting to age-related hormonal changes like andropause. You might not feel it right away, but subtle symptoms can begin to creep in: fatigue, decreased libido, slower recovery after exercise, even a drop in motivation or confidence. And yes, it can contribute to the slow, silent progression of prostate discomfort. Here's the real takeaway: ejaculation isn't harmful on its own. In fact, it can be beneficial, but when it becomes too frequent, it stops being a relief and starts becoming a stressor. Your body, especially your hormonal system, needs balance, not extremes. Think of it like exercise. The right amount builds strength. Too much breaks you down. Understanding this first biological shift is crucial. It's not just about doing it or not doing it. It's about knowing how your hormones respond and using that knowledge to work with your body, not against it. The second effect: muscular fatigue and blood flow. When most people think about ejaculation, they think hormones. But what they overlook is something far more mechanical: the role of your pelvic muscles and blood flow. Every time a man ejaculates, it isn't just a release. It's a full body coordination of muscular contractions, especially in the pelvic floor and the prostate itself. These rhythmic movements are powerful. They help flush fluids, stimulate nerves, and, most importantly, keep blood circulating through a region that often doesn't get much attention. And that's a good thing, in moderation. Regular ejaculation, particularly in middle-aged and older men, boosts local blood flow. It nourishes prostate tissue, supports oxygen delivery, and even helps clear waste that might otherwise build up and trigger inflammation. In that sense, ejaculation acts as a kind of natural cleanse, keeping the prostate flexible, responsive, and healthy. But there's a catch. Those same muscles can become overstimulated and fatigued if you're doing it too frequently, especially as you age. Unlike your younger years, when muscle recovery was almost automatic, men over 40 begin to experience longer recovery cycles. The pelvic muscles, just like your arms or legs, need time to bounce back. If they're constantly contracted with no rest, they start to tense up, lose elasticity, and even interfere with surrounding functions, like bladder control. Over time, this can lead to symptoms that are easy to dismiss: mild urinary urgency, weaker flow, a dull ache in the lower abdomen. You might think it's just part of getting older, but in many cases, it's the result of overworking the pelvic system without giving it time to rest. And here's where it gets even more important. When blood flow is compromised, the prostate tissue becomes less elastic. It's more prone to hardening, swelling, or congestion, especially if it's already inflamed from other issues like high DHT or immune imbalance. So what started as a harmless daily habit can snowball into real physical discomfort. The key isn't to stop entirely, it's to tune in to how your body feels afterward. If you notice fatigue, tension, or changes in your urination, those might be signs you're pushing past your body's recovery limit. Think of your prostate and pelvic floor like a high-performance engine. It needs regular activation, but it also needs cool-down periods, proper fuel, and maintenance. Too much wear without rest. That's when problems begin. In short, healthy circulation is essential, but overstimulation can quietly drain the system until your body starts to sound the alarm. The third effect: localized immune disruption. There's one more system affected by frequent ejaculation that hardly anyone talks about, and that's your immune system, specifically within the prostate itself. Yes, The prostate has its own localized immune activity, and it plays a crucial role in protecting the gland from internal threats like inflammation, bacterial buildup, and cellular debris. Every time you ejaculate, you're not just releasing fluid, you're also helping the prostate expel waste materials, dead cells, excess proteins, and other biological byproducts that would otherwise linger and potentially irritate tissue. In moderation, this process is incredibly helpful. It's like running a rinse cycle, clearing out anything the body doesn't need and giving your prostate a clean slate. But here's where things can take a turn. When ejaculation happens too frequently without enough recovery, the body doesn't have time to complete its natural repair and reset processes. Instead of functioning smoothly, the immune system inside the prostate becomes hyperactive and confused. It begins reacting to normal tissue as if it were a threat, leading to a subtle but persistent state of low-level inflammation. This type of inflammation isn't dramatic. There's no burning, no visible swelling, and no urgent signs that something is wrong. But over time, it manifests as a dull ache, pelvic heaviness, or that constant feeling like you need to urinate, but can't quite empty your bladder. Even more frustrating, standard tests and scans often show nothing wrong. Your doctor might say everything looks fine, but you know your body feels off. That's the problem with localized immune disruption. It's silent, gradual, and incredibly easy to overlook. Men who experience this often blame aging or stress, never realizing that their body's immune response has been knocked out of sync by overstimulation and lack of recovery time. And because the prostate is a closed gland, inflammation inside it doesn't always spread or cause fever. It just sits there, slowly affecting function and comfort. The solution isn't to eliminate ejaculation altogether. In fact, stopping entirely can cause its own set of issues. The real answer is balance, giving your body time between sessions to recover, regulate hormone levels, reset immune function, and stabilize inflammation. Think of it like managing stress. A little pressure can motivate you. Constant pressure? That's what leads to burnout. Your immune system inside the prostate works the same way. It needs rest just as much as activity. And if this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Thousands of men deal with these invisible symptoms every day, without ever knowing what's really causing them. Case study, David's story. Let me introduce you to David. David was 65, a retired construction site supervisor from Nevada. The kind of man who rarely complained, worked with his hands, and always put others first. When he came into the clinic, he didn't say much at first, just that he'd been feeling off. He wasn't sleeping well, waking up multiple times a night to use the bathroom. He had a constant heaviness in his lower abdomen, like pressure that never fully went away. And most of all, he said, "I just don't feel like myself anymore." What made David's case interesting wasn't just his symptoms. It was what he wasn't doing. After some gentle questioning, David admitted that for almost a decade, he'd completely stopped any form of sexual activity. Not just with a partner, completely. No release, no intimacy. He told me, "After I turned 55, I figured that part of life was behind me." He was embarrassed to talk about it, even laughed it off like it wasn't important. But deep down, you could tell, he knew something wasn't right. His physical exam told us more. Mildly enlarged prostate, elevated PSA levels. Ultrasound showed slight swelling and irregular texture in the gland tissue. Not dangerous yet, but clearly not normal. We didn't jump to medication. Instead, we made small, consistent changes. David began light exercise, just walking daily, increased his water intake, added prostate-supporting supplements, and most importantly, we reintroduced ejaculation, slowly, 1 to 2 times per week. Not as a task, but as a form of reconnection with his body and with his health. 4 months later, the results were undeniable. His PSA levels had dropped slightly. Nighttime urination had improved. That heavy pressure in his lower belly? Nearly gone. But the real change, his energy, his mindset. He sat straighter, spoke more confidently, even joked about things he would have been too shy to say before. And then he told me something I'll never forget. I never imagined something this simple could change both my body and my mindset so much. David's story isn't unique. Plenty of men his age stop caring for that part of themselves, not because they want to, but because no one talks about it. Shame, silence, and outdated beliefs keep them stuck. But the truth is, your body never stops needing attention. And sometimes the smallest changes, made consistently, can restore more than just physical health. They can bring you back to yourself. Ideal frequency by age group. One of the most common questions I hear from men, especially those over 40, is this: so how often should I be doing it? It's a fair question, but the truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all number. The ideal frequency depends on your age, your overall health, and how well your body recovers. What's normal for one man might be too much or too little for another. That said, years of clinical observation and feedback from real men give us a general guideline. Not rigid rules, but helpful benchmarks. Ages 40 to 49. At this stage, most men still have relatively stable testosterone levels and strong recovery ability. The prostate is resilient and circulation is good. Recommended frequency, 3 to 4 times per week. If you feel energized, sleep well, and recover quickly, this range supports healthy hormone balance and prostate function. Just be mindful not to push past your natural limits. Ages 50 to 59. This is the decade when changes start becoming noticeable. Recovery takes longer, hormone levels may begin to shift, and stress can hit harder. Recommended frequency, 2 to 3 times per week. Pay close attention to how your body feels after each release. If you notice fatigue, weaker erections, or more frequent urination, it may be time to ease up slightly and let your system rest longer between sessions. Ages 60 and above. By now, the focus should shift from frequency to consistency. The goal is to maintain circulation and prevent stagnation without overstimulating tired muscles or an aging prostate. Recommended frequency, 1 to 2 times per week. For some men, once a week is more than enough to maintain balance. If libido is still strong and you feel good afterward, twice a week is fine, but avoid consecutive days and give your body space to reset. One important rule for all ages: don't binge and don't go completely cold either. Long periods of total inactivity can lead to fluid buildup, stiffness, and low-level inflammation. But daily activity without recovery can trigger fatigue, hormonal instability, and pelvic tension. Instead, think balance. Pair healthy release with quality sleep, light physical activity, hydration, and regular checkups. And most importantly, listen to your body. It's always giving you signals. You just have to pay attention. Your ideal frequency might change from month to month or year to year, and that's normal. The key is to adjust with awareness, not guilt or guesswork, because your prostate doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency, care, and just enough attention to stay in sync with the rest of you. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of the curve when it comes to men's health. Drop a comment with your age group and what concerns you most. We read everyone. And if this gave you real value, hit subscribe so you don't miss the deeper insights coming next. Your body deserves attention, and we're here to help you give it just that.